If you are preparing to sign a lease or move into a new home, or maybe you are taking a job in a new state, there may be some unexpected fees you might not have considered. Proper planning can help forgive you and help you make you worry less things to worry about. Colin Evans from Evans Financial Group is here to make the financial transition a little less shocking. Okay, tongue twister right there. So, Colin, moving is stressful enough as it is. Hidden fees can rack up in areas that we didn't expect. So let's walk through this.
It is. I mean, there's a bunch of them. You know, and at some point in time, we're all shifting. We're going to a new home or maybe a new city and things of that nature. And it's like, well, what are the financial pains that are involved in here? And we put together a top 5 kind of list of some of those financial pains, and number 1 comes down to the actual just cost of moving. You know, sometimes that can be unexpected, all the way to, do I need to hire movers? How much stuff do we have? How much have we accumulated? You know, the quantity of that stuff will even have an effect on the cost, and it dials all the way down to just the simple stuff of packing supplies. Do I need enough bubble tape and boxes and things of that nature? You know, it's like we start packing all that stuff into it and going, is this going to be a big deal, or is this going to be really, really easy? Are we hiring in professionals, or are we going to do this ourselves? That's, you know, one of the first things that comes into play is one of the biggest costs that are out there.
And it's shocking because you always feel like you don't have that much crap until it's time to move, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, how did I accumulate all this stuff?
It is, you know, and then, you know, we add into that, when you look at housing costs, you know, here in our Shreveport, Bossier and our surrounding areas, we are pretty much in a kind of, say, lower cost of living when we go and we start looking at what's it costing to a bigger city. If we're looking at, you know, the Dallas area or the Houston area, or, you know, even if we go out to like a California or a Florida area, the housing costs themselves might blow you away. But outside of that, is there going to be, you know, an unexpected, if I'm, you know, signing a lease, what's my rent going to be? Is there going to be an upfront deposit? Or if I'm purchasing a home, is there going to be, you know, do I have to have a down payment? What's that down payment going to be? Am I going to be expecting of this, or how are we going to cover this? You know, that's one of the areas that we want to look at and think about. And that kind of shifts right into, you know, getting utilities and services set up. You know, some of those things that come into play, it's like, is there going to be any installation charges, or credit checks can even be had if you're starting into, you know, some of the new products that are out there with your kind of Comcast or your TVs or your internets. You're going to say, hey, we need
trash and water. Those are both ones that make you put a deposit on as well.
They're all going to have some sort of security deposits that are in there that might be unexpected. So that's something you want to look at and pay attention to. You know, when we think about moving into that, that's, as we've discussed in the past in several of our episodes, and the unexpected expense side is have that emergency fund. You know, what happens when we get to a new place and we look at, oh goodness, you know, maybe a pipe's cracked, or, you know, something that needs to be fixed, or small things that occur that are the unexpected, you know, the things that we weren't planning on. That's why we look back and we go, as we've harped on in the past, this emergency fund, this is a great time for that to come into play.
Give us a recap on that emergency fund real quick when we're moving. You said, what were the expenses?
Well, you want to keep in mind, you know, at a minimum, you know, financial advisors across the board typically recommend having 6 months of expenses covered. So if I'm able to cover my house note for 6 months, the car note for 6 months, and we're able to cover these bills, 12 months would be an ideal one that you can cover those expenses, but to have that cushion to fall back on, because that's the kind of stuff that happens. You know, you move into a new place and, you know, a month later that water heater goes out.
It happens too.
And now we got that, now we got that problem. Yeah, exactly. You know, and one of the last things we want to wrap up with is, is there a loss of income? If say you're changing jobs and you're having to move into a new city, and is there a gap in that period of time from, hey, we separated from service at this career and we're starting the new one in 30 days. Are we going to be okay with that gap in income? And this is where that emergency fund really comes into play.
Well, thank you, Colin, so much for coming in today and talking to us about the financial challenges when moving and how to navigate through some of those.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.